Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Pizzey. In this episode, we're back in the shop and we're building the CROSSCUT sled. Real quick, table saw allows you to rip wood to your desired width, but if you want to cut something to length, you can either use a miter saw, which I'm not a big fan of, or you can build a CROSSCUT sled. So I'm thinking mine might be a little bit larger than I generally would want, but I'm using this guy to help me mainly build those cabinets. So maybe I'll build a smaller one in the future. So I know I want something wide. So I'm thinking of 36 inches. As far as depth goes, I think 29 is the number. Let's cut everything out, take a look. Small change of plans. I'm not liking how large and heavy this guy's gonna feel. I'm gonna make it a little less deep. Right now we're at 29. I'm gonna take it back to, I think, 24, and I think the width's okay. Yes, this feels more like it. That was just too big. I wouldn't use it, I wouldn't like it, so. Happy with this. Let's keep going. Get the runners on, pull up the fences. Pretty snug, but it really doesn't matter. If they're not, you can just tape or shim the inside edge, get them tight to the outside, glue it on. So let's need to figure out where I want the sled to live. I like to have about 2/3 to the left of the blade. It gives me about 22 inches to the left. So for now, I'm just gonna hide 2 screws up front, 2 screws up back. They'll both be hidden under the fence. Okay, a little stressful. That was way too tight, but cleaned it up with the shoulder plane. It's really snug. However, I'll fine tune it, sand it down a bit so it runs nice and smooth. Got a couple kids trying to go to sleep. They need a bit of love, so I'll be back. where I saw it, somewhere on YouTube, but great tip, using your table saw rail for your glue up if you don't have anything else. And with my shop being so barren, at this point, we got nothing. This was actually one of the issues I had with the first sled that I made. The fence kind of bowed just slightly. It's also why I made it 3 layers thick instead of just 2. One more fence to glue up, and we'll let these dry overnight. I'll go play in the secret closet, don't ya? Go for it. See it crazy? Is the locksmith having a hard time or what?
Yeah.
Not working too well? Fences are squared up, cut to length. Before we assemble though, there's 3 things I'd like to take care of. First, we need to extend these miter slots into the outfeed table. Let's see how fast we can do that. It's gonna be too tight. This will have to do. The rubber has some serious dust collection, doesn't it? Those are done. A little dirty, but it'll work. And for 2 and 3, these are improvements. Let me show you. So one of my favorite things about a crosscut sled is the fact that you have a zero clearance cut on the entire bottom and on the rear on the fence. So there's a handful of ways you can wreck this cut line right here. I've cut a few strips of hardboard here. I'm gonna insert it into the cut line. So if I ever need to replace it in the future, I'm not hooped. So I'm gonna honk this out without a dado blade now. Then we'll move on to number 3. So you see what I'm seeing? Had a few moments to calm down, but had a slight error. I guess that will be the front rail, and the question is, do I fill it? Do I scrap it? Do I just leave it? You don't really even notice it right there, but you know what? Maybe I should turn it around and let it stare at me in the face. It's gonna haunt me, but maybe it's a good thing. Okay, let's keep going. For number 3, I've got this T-track here, which I'm no longer really using. So we're gonna repurpose it. This should do the trick. On my last last sled, I never had any T-track or a flip stop. I just used a wooden block and a clamp. And this works well, but after a while, it can get quite old. Well worth it. I think a good improvement from the block. But now it's time for the most critical step in building any crosscut sled. That is squaring up the fence. To begin, we're gonna pivot off this end with just one screw. We're gonna make our first cut, and then we'll do our best to just get this roughly square off that new cut line. Then we're gonna do William Ng's 5-cut method. I'll link his video up above. First 4 cuts are done, and as you saw, those are done referencing one after the other. What that does is compounds our air by 4, so it makes it a little easier for us to detect and make adjustments. We'll now make the 5th cut, and we use that to measure the air. So this here is the compound air, so we need to divide that by 4. So that's the air per cut, or for this entire strip. We want to figure out the air per inch. We are 17 3/4 long. Divide that by 17 quarters, 0.0007 inches. So now we need to multiply that by the length of the pivot from screw to screw, which is roughly 30 inches long. So there's what we're looking for. And we can just round that to something workable. So there's our air, 22 thousandths of an inch. We'll pivot from this corner, make that small adjustment down here. And since this is our reference down here, this number is positive, so we need to move this corner downward. So we're gonna find the right feeler gauge. Looks like we have exactly what we need, 22 thousandths of an inch. We'll shim with that. We just did the 4 cuts with the realigned fence. Now we're gonna do our 5th. This is the moment of truth. It's what we play for. Now that I can live with. It's tough to see, but I'll show you. That's a thou. That's 1/1000th of an inch. I don't think I'm gonna correct that in this wooden fence. So it's time to celebrate. Hey Google, play Hey Ya by Outkast.
Hey Ya by Outkast. Sure, playing on Spotify.
1, 2, 3,
Enough of that. Let's secure this thing before we lose it. Well, here we are. That's a wrap. Like, we're complete. I'm gonna rub this bad boy down with some oil now, but I'll end this here. Thanks for joining me in this episode. I'll see you in the next one.